This kind of violence is becoming far too common in our society. And I don't give a damn if it's coming from one particular side or the other, directed at one particular party or another, or one particular person or another. It is not okay. And it has to stop.
Really strong words there from Governor Josh Shapiro. We are learning new details this hour about the shocking political attack in Pennsylvania. The home of Governor Josh Shapiro set on fire early Sunday morning while the governor and his family were inside sleeping. Today, investigators revealing new details about the suspect, including plans that he had if, in fact, he had come into direct contact with Shapiro. Let's get right to CNN's Danny Freeman. He's live for us in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Danny, these pictures are just so hard to look at. Governor Shapiro, obviously, has been someone who has a very straightforward and pragmatic messaging on many a political topic. And I think you could really hear in his voice the conviction that he has around this. What more are we learning about the person who did this, why they did it, and how we ended up here?
Yeah, Casey, you could hear the conviction in his voice and also the genuine concern for his family and others who were inside the house when this fire started. Like you noted, we got a lot of new details today about exactly what happened. So let's start with the suspect here and how police believe he got inside of the residence behind me. We're talking about 38-year-old Cody Balmer, and police say that on Saturday night, overnight into Sunday morning, they believe that Balmer actually jumped this fence right over here, got access to the governor's residence grounds, and on him he was carrying a bag with beer bottles filled with gasoline inside of them. Now, this is all while the governor and his family were sleeping. This man, Balmer, according to police, then went over to this building behind me. It's in the southwest corner, not thankfully where the governor and his family were sleeping. He broke a window, threw a makeshift Molotov cocktail into the building, then broke another window with a hammer that he brought with him, climbed into the residence himself, and threw a second incendiary device inside of the building as well. He then, Casey, was able to escape by jumping back over the fence, but this is where the story kind of takes a remarkable turn. On Sunday, he actually turned himself into police. He went to Pennsylvania State Police headquarters. It's a massive complex right here in Harrisburg, and he essentially, according to court documents, confessed to the crime and admitted that he was the one who set fire to this particular building. But this is perhaps the most chilling part about that. When he was speaking to investigators, again, according to court documents, police asked him, as you noted, what was your plan if you had encountered Governor Shapiro inside of his residence? And he told police he would have, quote, beaten him with his hammer. But Casey, one of the troubling parts also about this case is that when it comes to motive, we still really don't have a ton of information. In those court documents, he told investigators that he had a general hatred toward Governor Shapiro, but still there's no more larger evidence as to what made him jump over that fence and set fire to the governor's residence, no less on the first night of Passover on Saturday, Casey.
Yeah, all right, Danny Freeman, we are just learning in here as well that Cody Balmer, the suspect here that you've been reporting on, is going to be arraigned at 5 p.m. Tonight. That just in to CNN here. Danny Freeman, thank you very much for that. And we did hear from President Trump briefly on the arson attack when he spoke with reporters in the Oval Office as he sat with the president of El Salvador. Watch.
The attacker was not a fan of Trump, I understand, just from what I read and from what I've been told. The attacker basically wasn't a fan of anybody. It's probably just a whack job. And certainly a thing like that cannot be allowed to happen.
All right, and joining our panel as well is CNN Senior National Security Analyst Juliette Kayyem. Juliette, let me start with you just on, obviously we're still getting new details in terms of, what this man was up to. Clearly, he wanted to be known to police because he turned himself in. Yes. Clearly, this was a political target. Again, we don't know what role anti-Semitism may have played in this. We don't know exactly what role politics may have played in this. Donald Trump seems to be trying to say, well, he didn't do this because he loves me, which, of course, is often how Donald Trump, talks about the world, is how it impacts or references him or doesn't. What does it say to you? I mean, this is the latest in a string of violent incidents aimed at politicians. What does that tell you?
We're in a stage where there's sort of this normalization of political violence or the threats of violence against political figures. And I want to talk about motive. We tend to think, well, this person's a Democrat and hates Republicans. This person's a Republican and hates Democrats. What we're seeing now, certainly with the Trump assassination attempts, is a very mixed, confused motive. People who sometimes are political or not political at all, but who are using the target is now a political person. It's not a sports person. It's not an entertainment person. It's not even a family member. And I think that can be blamed for the heightened threat levels that we see in the political discourse, the threatening of violence as a response to political disagreements. Even, in fact, I just have to say, like, even the Oval Office meeting you all were just talking about, like, there's this tinge of, if we don't like you, we're going to, like, throw you to El Salvador. There's a sense of the discourse. So I don't know if these motives are as pristine as they used to be. And that is a challenge, because then they're harder to stop.
Well, one thing I will say, Patrick McHenry, is that, and this is part of why, I'm struck by Governor Shapiro, who, of course, has been, a rising star in the Democratic Party. He was considered to be the number 2 on Kamala Harris's ticket. This is what he said when somebody tried to assassinate Trump, also in Pennsylvania. And it sounds pretty similar to what he said when, something terrible happened to him as well. Let's watch.
Political disagreements can never, ever be addressed through violence. This is a moment where all leaders have a responsibility to speak and act with moral clarity, where all leaders need to take down the temperature and rise above the hateful rhetoric. We continue to wish for a full and speedy recovery and pray for the former president.
The right thing to say then, the right
Correct.
thing to say now.
Correct.
Why is it so hard for some of our leaders to come out and say this? And why also are, I get the sense that some people who hold positions like the position that you previously held feel like sometimes their constituents are demanding of them things that they previously did not, that the mood in the country is driving this.
But that's petty and small. And in moments like this, you have to be big. You have to be big, even if it doesn't feel good, right? You especially have to be big in these moments. We've seen this with congressional leaders being targeted. We've seen this with President Trump's assassination attempts. But you see stars like this rise in moments of severe stress. And I think we saw that today. I think we saw that today, that Governor Shapiro has the makings of a national leader. You see this in Vice President J.D. Vance's response. Mm-hmm. He was immediately out. He immediately said the right and big thing in condemning this violence and offering prayers for Governor Shapiro and his family. The right thing to do. Absolutely tone, pitch perfect for both of these leaders. But absolutely, we've got to condemn violence. This has gotten way out of hand, that's for sure.
Max Rose, I do want to make sure that we are very careful and clear to say that as of right now, the reporting at CNN does not make a connection between anti-Semitism and what happened. Mm-hmm. That said, Governor Shapiro is a very publicly Jewish leader. And in fact, we can put up the before and after of his Seder table from, of course, the beginning of Passover. He posted it online, and you can see, you can't quite see the chairs, but that the table ends up completely charred, and you can see those, the remnants. And this just really struck me as very stark, because we do know that anti-Semitism broadly is rising throughout the country. I mean, how is this being received by people who are Jewish as they look at these images?
Well, it's absolutely frightening. And just to put this in context, his family were all asleep at that point. And you could sense it in the tone of his voice. This was deeply personal. This was not just about his own safety, but about the safety of those he loves the most. And I'm Jewish. Every Jewish person, or at least most, could identify with the fact that we were all with our families over the last few evenings, just as he was. But I particularly appreciate and respect the fact that he is making this much larger than his own story and his own personal identity, and bringing it back to the importance of unity and respect for all Americans and us moving beyond this moment of political violence that's been particularly heightened over the past few years, particularly since January 6th.